In an age of kings and empires, one man refused the crown. He won a revolution, built a nation, and then gave up power. This is the story of George Washington, the leader who chose freedom over a throne. Early life and first steps. George Washington was born on February 22, 1732, in Virginia. Unlike the rulers of Europe, he had no royal bloodline and no palace to grow up in. His father was a planter, and George's childhood was simple, shaped by the values of farming, hard work, and self-discipline. His education was modest. He never attended university, but Washington was determined to rise above his circumstances. By the age of 17, he was already a land surveyor trekking through the wilderness of Virginia and mapping its rugged terrain. Those years hardened him, gave him self-reliance, and taught him how to lead men through adversity. In his early 20s, Washington entered military service during the French and Indian War. At just 22 years old, he commanded men in battle against seasoned European soldiers. Though he endured mistakes and painful defeats, he gained resilience and a reputation for courage. These experiences molded him into a leader who could endure failure, learn from it, and return stronger, qualities that would later prove essential when America rose against Britain. The Revolutionary Commander. When the colonies declared independence, Washington was chosen as Commander-in-Chief of the Continental Army in 1775. The challenge was enormous. His soldiers were underfed, underpaid, and poorly equipped, while the British Army was one of the strongest in the world. Washington's resolve kept the revolution alive. During the brutal winter at Valley Forge, thousands of his men starved and froze, but Washington never abandoned them. He visited campfires, shared in their hardships, and inspired them to endure. In December 1776, in a daring gamble, he crossed the icy Delaware River at night and struck the British at Trenton. That victory shocked the enemy and revived the spirit of the revolution. For years, Washington fought not just battles, but despair itself. Finally, in 1781, with French support, he trapped the British at Yorktown. Their surrender ended the war. Against impossible odds, Washington had done what few thought possible. He had delivered independence to the American colonies. The reluctant hero. When the war was over, the world expected Washington to seize power. Victorious generals almost always became rulers, but Washington stunned everyone. He resigned his command and returned to his farm at Mount Vernon. This act of humility was so rare that even Britain's King George III is said to have remarked, "If he does that, he will be the greatest man in the world." His decision echoed across the Atlantic, leaving monarchs and politicians in disbelief. For the first time, a man with near absolute power had chosen principle over ambition. By walking away, Washington proved that the ideals of liberty and self-government were real. He showed that America's leaders would serve the people, not rule over them. This moment defined him as much as any battle ever did. The first president. Washington's retreat to Mount Vernon was brief. Soon, the nation called him back. In 1789, he was unanimously elected the first president of the United States, the only president in American history chosen without a single dissenting vote. He knew every action he took would set a precedent. He created the first cabinet of advisors, delivered the first inaugural address, and carefully limited his authority to avoid resembling a monarch. He guided the new nation through challenges like the Whiskey Rebellion, and he kept America neutral during the Great Wars in Europe, knowing the fragile republic could not survive another conflict. Most importantly, after serving 2 terms, Washington stepped down voluntarily. By leaving office, he established the tradition of peaceful transfer of power, proving that the presidency was not a throne but a responsibility. Once again, he showed that leadership is measured not by holding power forever, but by knowing when to let it go. Legacy and death. In 1797, Washington retired to Mount Vernon for the final time. He hoped for peace in the life of a farmer, but 2 years later, in December 1799, he died at the age of 67. His death sent shockwaves through the nation he had helped create. In towns and cities, bells tolled, citizens wept, and memorial ceremonies were held in his honor. Even across the Atlantic, in monarchies that once fought him, leaders paid tribute to his greatness. Napoleon himself reportedly compared Washington to the greatest figures of the ancient world. Washington's legacy lives everywhere. His name marks the capital of the United States, an American state, and countless schools, monuments, and streets. His face is on the dollar bill and the quarter. But more than the symbols, his legacy endures in the example he set. That true leadership lies not in seizing power, but in serving with humility. George Washington could have been a king. Instead, he chose to be the servant of a people, and in doing so, he became the father of his count. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share and subscribe.